You guys, we are literally in December. We are in the final month of 2023. I know for some of us it has felt really fast, and some of us it's felt like the longest year of our life. Today I want to focus on something that I feel like we don't talk about enough or maybe normalize enough, and that's the heaviness that some of us or most of us feel during this time of year, especially during the month of December. So today we are talking about some of the causes and reasons we feel heavy and maybe some ways on how to acknowledge it, work through it, or better manage it. So let's dive on in. As a mental health therapist who meets with people on a daily basis, this time of year tends to feel the heaviest for a lot of my clients. And if I'm honest, it has felt really heavy for me as well. I'm somebody that loves Christmas. I love putting up my tree. I love decorating my house. I typically do it before Thanksgiving. And you guys, I literally had to force myself to do it just the other day. I think it was December 2nd or something. And it took every ounce of energy I had to put up my tree, which is something that I love to do. Number one, I think we need to normalize the heaviness that some of us feel during the holiday season. Again, there are multiple reasons, which we'll get into some of them. Sometimes I meet with people and they say things like, well, I know that people are expecting me to feel holly and jolly and excited, and it's Christmas, it's everybody's favorite time of the year. And while there may be a lot of people out there who love this holiday and love this time of year, which there's nothing wrong with that as well, it's also important to note that just because somebody else is feeling excitement or joy or holly jolly, whatever the case may be, doesn't necessarily mean that you have to as well. I think sometimes we base what we should be feeling based on expectations of other people around us or maybe what we're seeing on social media. And I think it's important to note that it's okay if this is not your favorite time of year. It's okay to acknowledge if you're feeling heavy during this time of year, mentally, emotionally, and even spiritually. So, what are some of the common reasons that we feel this kind of heaviness during this time of year specifically? Well, number one, it could be as simple as it is just the time of year, especially for college students, where it is just final after final, and it feels like everything that you've learned in this semester is all coming down to this one test, and there's this pressure of having to do it well. And some of us feel like this one test is going to be the verge if we get to move on, if we get to graduate, if we fill in the blank. Being overwhelmed with things like finals or final projects can create a sense of stress that can lead into a sense of heaviness. This can be especially true when maybe we've had a harder academic semester and we feel like we've been pushing and working really hard, and it feels like our work is not adding up to the work that we put into it. I think along with things like finals and final projects, with college, there's not only spring graduation, but there's also winter graduation. And sometimes when we're about to exit a season of life that we have been in for 4+ years, it can feel really overwhelming and it can feel really intimidating, especially when you go home and people are like, what's next for you? What do you have planned? What's your job? Do you have a job lined up? Where are you living? All that stuff can feel really, really overwhelming. If you find yourself in that position and you feel really overwhelmed and heavy due to finals happening or final projects, or you're about to graduate and you feel like you have no idea what's next, here's some encouragement for you. I want you to take a moment and breathe. I want to encourage you that you don't have to have the next steps planned out right this minute. Sometimes, again, we feel the pressure because others have put that pressure on us. I want to remind you, all you need to focus on right now is continue to make the next steps forward to finishing up your classes, to finishing up your finals, and to walk across the stage and get your diploma. Whatever is going to happen next will take care of itself. If you're about to head into a week filled with finals and final projects, I want to encourage you, take breaks. Sometimes we push through and we do all-nighters every single night. And again, I am very aware that college almost requires all-nighters. So I'm not saying you won't have to push through sometimes. But what I am encouraging and what I am reminding you is that it is okay to take breaks. It is okay to step away from the books, to step away from the studying, to step away from everything and go enjoy something, whether it's going to something Christmassy in your town or if it's going and doing something fun with friends. Take breaks even in the midst of your busiest week. Another reason I think people feel the heaviness during the holidays is the pressure of hanging out with family that maybe they haven't seen in a long time, or hanging out with friends they haven't seen in a long time. Now, hear me out. I think it is super important, and it's part of the holiday spirit to hang out with family and friends and loved ones. I also know that sometimes it creates a sense of pressure of having to answer questions that maybe people don't have the answer for, or feeling the pressure of, whether it's hugs or sharing things that they're just not comfortable sharing. It can feel really overwhelming when the expectation is we're hanging out with family and friends every single night while you're here. As humans, we're built differently, meaning there are extroverts out there who love spending time with family and friends and people every single day, and it recharges them. There are others, though, who are more introvert. Personally, I'm an introvert. Hanging out with family and friends every single day can be really overwhelming to me. I love when I get to do it. I also love when I get to take a break and set some boundaries. You have the right to set boundaries. You have the right to set boundaries on what you talk about. For example, I think a popular one is like politics, especially this time of year and, in the year that we're in. You have the right to say, hey, I'm not going to engage in that. That's not something I feel like I want to dive into and talk to you about, and we can change subjects. You have the right to say no to certain hangouts or certain things. Here's a big one too. You have the right to set physical boundaries as well. Sometimes with family, there's that pressure of always having to hug or feel like you have to physically engage. You have the right to set physical boundaries. You don't have to hug everybody, especially people that you haven't seen in a long time or you don't have personal relationship with. Sometimes there's a misunderstanding that blood means full access to everything and anything that you are and that you have, when in reality, blood doesn't mean that. You can still be blood and still have boundaries. So sometimes to manage the heaviness that we feel in hanging out with friends or family or whatever the case may be, that can be helped by setting boundaries. That can be helped by saying no to certain things and reminding yourself when you do feel bad, wait, no, this is something that I'm doing for myself. So when I do hang out with them at this bigger event or this more important event, I'm going to be able to fully engage because I was able to fully disengage and recharge my batteries. It's important to honor your capacity. It's important to honor what you are capable of doing. Another common reason that I feel that people deal with a certain heaviness during the holidays is honestly due to finances. When it comes to Christmas, there's certain expectation in certain families or certain people where they're going to get these lavish gifts or these gifts of a certain value or quantity. And I think most of us are feeling the impact of inflation. Inflation is at an all-time high, and I know it can be really overwhelming when we feel like we can't financially meet the expectations that maybe others have of us. I am one of 6 kids. Now my family has grown into 19 people. I cannot buy everybody gifts. And for me, I struggle with people pleasing, and I struggle with the concept of, well, if I buy one, I have to buy all, or if I do this, I have to do all. And so if you are like that, if you are in that situation, I want to encourage you and remind you that it is not your responsibility to provide for everyone and everything. Something that you could try maybe this holiday season, if you're getting together with a big family, is doing gift exchanges. So you're not buying for everyone, but maybe you're just buying for one person. Another thing that you can try and be intentional with is creating intentional and creative gifts. Now, me personally, I am not super creative, so this would be really hard for me to do, but I know that there are so many creative people out there, whether it's a certain card or a certain gift that's homemade, whether it's, a sweet treat or something that you're able to create with your 2 hands. That is more important than anything that you can buy. I think, again, we're in this mentality where if you look at TikTok, if you look at Instagram, everybody's buying the latest and greatest, and we feel the pressure to buy the latest and greatest, whether it's for ourselves or for those around us. And I just want to help release that pressure. You do not have to buy the latest thing that you see on TikTok. You do not have to buy the latest shoes or the latest outfits, the latest whatever. You do not have to buy that, because I promise you, in a little bit, that will be out of style. I remember when I think it was middle school, and this is how old I am. They had these jackets that were like, I think a suede, but then they had like fur on the sleeves and on like the collar. And I wanted one so bad, and I got it. And let me also let you know, growing up, my parents did not give me everything that I wanted. If I wanted like Uggs, I got like a really bad Walmart knockoff brand of Uggs. But this was one thing that they came through with. And so anyway, I remember getting the jacket, and I grew up in Pennsylvania, so it was more appropriate to have that kind of jacket. Literally, I think within that year, those jackets went out of style. So this beautiful, nice jacket that I had wanted so bad, I think I maybe wore it a couple months and then it was out of style. And guess what? They're back in style. I am mind blown. I saw one the other day and I'm like, oh, no way are those back in. All that to say, the latest and greatest is going to go out and something else is going to come in. So be intentional with what you give, even giving your time. And I know that sounds so cliche, but I have recognized the value in time. I have recognized the value in me showing up for somebody, being present for somebody will never go out of style. Another reason that I feel like people feel the heaviness during the holidays is actually due to what's known as seasonal affective disorder, SAD. This is something that's typically caused when fall goes into winter and the daylight savings time happens and there's a shortage of light during the day. It gets darker at night sooner, and it just impacts people's mood. Not only does that happen, but then the pressure and the stress of holidays piles onto it, and it creates even more of a heaviness. Seasonal affective disorder is something that I struggle with and millions of people struggle with. And that is something to acknowledge and recognize, because number one, you're not crazy. I think sometimes for myself even, I have sat and thought, oh my gosh, I am crazy. It is literally Christmas and it is the most joyous time of the year and I can't get my butt out of bed. You're not crazy. There could be something deeper going on. And with seasonal affective disorder, it literally is a depression that happens for a couple of months. And with depression, there are feelings of hopelessness. There's a feeling of disconnect. There's a feeling of wanting to isolate. There are feelings of not being able to get up and get going. There's a lack of motivation, so on and so forth. And that can happen during the holiday season, especially during this time. Sometimes when we feel the pressure or the expectations of others, or this is something that I do, I'm not gonna lie, but when I scroll and I see everybody living their best life or having these romanticized lives, I'm like, oh, that's exhausting. I can't do it. So because I can't do what I'm seeing, I feel like I can't do anything at all. And so that can be a big reason for feeling the heaviness during the holidays. If you struggle with depression, if you struggle with seasonal affective disorder, if you're not sure that you struggle with seasonal affective disorder, but it sounds like maybe you do, here are some things I want to encourage you with. Number one, go talk to somebody. I am a therapist, like I've mentioned. I also see a therapist. Being able to process certain feelings and thoughts with somebody outside of myself is super helpful because it helps rationalize the irrational feelings. The feelings that I feel are valid, but they're not always rational and they're not always telling me the truth. So talking to a professional who can give me coping skills, who can walk me through certain situations, is a game changer. Number two, something that I try to remind myself of, something that I try to be intentional with, is no matter what I'm feeling, I have to continue to function. Now, there were a couple of days, even again this past week, where I'm like, okay, I need to put my tree up. I need to put my tree up because I know it makes me feel better when it's up. That's the thing. I know it makes me feel better. But the idea of actually doing it seemed exhausting. Eventually, I had to get to a point though of like, okay, no matter what I'm feeling, I have to continue to function. My feelings cannot define how I function. I think what happens a lot of times when people are struggling, especially with depression, is that they're waiting for feelings to change. They're waiting for motivation just to kind of hit them like a lightning bolt. Now, there can be rushes of adrenaline where we're just going and we feel excited for a moment, but then we crash. However, with motivation, I think we have to move to become motivated. Oftentimes we wait to be motivated to move, but we have to move ourselves into motivation. Find something that you can do on a consistent basis, even if it's you got up, you brush your teeth, and you wash your face. Or you got up and you made your bed and you journaled. You got up and fill in the blank. But forcing yourself to do something until your feelings change is going to be the best thing that you can do for yourself. Don't wait for your feelings to change, because that could take a really long time and that is super unpredictable. But we have to move to feel motivated. We can't allow our feelings to dictate how we function. We have to learn how to continue to function even in the hardest of seasons. And then last but not least, and this is something that I experienced personally for the first time last year or 2 years ago now. But a lot of times people feel a sense of heaviness because there's a sense of loss that they're feeling. Holidays often remind us what we're missing, if we're missing, certain things or certain people in our life. 2 years ago, I lost quite a few people in my life, and it was during the holidays where I was like, man, this is the first holiday without this person. This is the first holiday without that person. This is the first holiday I would have had a person, things like that came to mind. Holidays often bring up those losses. I think sometimes maybe we try to ignore it, or we try to convince ourselves, I should be happy, I shouldn't be feeling this. It's been a couple months, it's been a couple years. Instead of ignoring it though, instead of invalidating what you're feeling, I do think it's important to validate what you're feeling and acknowledge what you're feeling. It's okay to feel the loss, whether it's been 1 year, whether it's been 20 years. Grief is so unexplainable and it's such a roller coaster. Sometimes grief is felt the heaviest during the times of celebration, because again, we're reminded of who's missing during those moments of celebration. I've been able to work with some people who have unfortunately lost loved ones, whether it was mothers or fathers or father-in-laws or siblings, whatever the case may be, and holidays tended to be the hardest, understandably so. And one thing that I have found personally helpful, and I've encouraged people that I work with, is when it comes to holiday season, learn how to honor the people that you've lost. Learn how to celebrate the people that you've lost. So whether it's bringing out memory books, whether it's, watching certain games on certain days, whether it's singing certain songs or doing certain traditions or cooking certain foods that make you think of them. Give yourself space. Give yourself grace to feel the grief that sometimes comes during the holiday season. I truly believe that's one of the most common reasons that a lot of people feel the heaviness during the holidays. There's no roadmap to how to grieve during the holidays or how to celebrate. So it's really up to you on how you honor, how you celebrate, and how you remember those who may not be with you this holiday season. Again, it doesn't matter if it's the first holiday without them or the 20th. It's still really hard, and that's completely okay. I know today's video may seem a little heavy, or it may not seem as lighthearted, but I do think it's important to talk about these harder topics, to address the heavier things. Holidays are great. They're fun. They're amazing. They're also really hard and heavy for some people. And there are moments of hard and heavy, even in the midst of the joy. And I just want to normalize that. I want to bring understanding to it, hopefully help some people out there who may just be in a season where they're not feeling the joy and the jolliness of the season that we're in. If there's anything that you take away from the video, I truly hope it's this. The heaviness that you feel during the holiday season is valid. The heaviness that you feel during the holiday season is nothing to be ashamed of. And I hope that you give yourself some space and you give yourself some grace this holiday season to figure out how to acknowledge it, to manage it, and to work through it. As always, if you guys are interested in all things mental health, therapy, faith, pop culture, then I would love for you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and turn on your notifications. That way you're notified when brand new videos are out and ready for you to watch. Be sure to tune in next week for a brand new video. Until next time, guys.